are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
For at least 35 years, American fathers have been struggling for decent, fair treatment in our court system. To date, that struggle has been a miserable failure. Today, there's tens of thousands of fathers who desire nothing more than an opportunity to remain active parents in the lives of their children. The shameful reality is that courts in every state turn their backs on these decent, caring fathers. Judges, concerned with the need for greater and greater efficiency, implement policies that leave fathers standing out in the cold, looking in a world that is no longer one in which they're welcome. To all this, courts, judges, bureaucrats, and attorneys go about their daily tasks unmoved and unconcerned. Not so the children. Not so their dads. It's time to stop the cruelty now.
The worst and most incompetent parent in America is the court system. The government has no concept of what it is to be a parent, and yet they're the ones who are legislating and governing over who remains a parent to their children, and they have made a colossal mess out of this. They are responsible for child abuse from hundreds of thousands of children, not only in Michigan but all across the country. It's a national disgrace. It must stop.
Very few people realize how easily children today are taken away from their parents with no show of wrongdoing and no cause. In other words, the government can simply confiscate your children for reasons that have nothing to do with their health or safety or wishes or well-being.
So what we're looking for is we're looking for reforms. And that's essentially what all of this really boils down to, is reforming. Reforming the system as it is currently, such that children have the ability to be parented by both of their parents, moms and dads.
For too long, we've had a situation where the courts and lawyers are using children as pawns or even as weapons, pitting the child, one parent against the other. And it's very unfortunate because the ones who are hurt the most are the children and, of course, their parents.
The odds of a child growing up in a two-parent family are very low today, and I have 4 children, I have grandchildren. I'm doing it for them and for their generation.
I am Kimberly Street, the daughter of fallen hero Wilbur Street. I am a child whose father was ripped out of my life by the family court systems. I was kept away from him from the time I was in high school. When I finally turned 18 and was able to see him with no restrictions, he died a month later. I'm out here now picking up the torch from where he left off, and I'm not going to let his death go in vain.
Do our children deserve us? What are we going to do about it? We're going to let our voices be heard. Never today should we be silent again. Never again should you allow a judge to walk you out the door without you having equal access and fair treatment within their court. Otherwise, let the world know.
Not the first time that I've been on the steps of this state capitol. But if I could utter one thing, it would be, I love my country, but I fear my government. The government of this nation are nothing but a bunch of corrupt criminals, and they ought to be arrested for the violations that they have done to children and mainly to fathers. I was separated from my children many, many years ago. I've had no contact with them in 23 years. I am not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of children who've been separated from their fathers across this nation. It is criminal. I used to think that the Constitution meant something. Not in the courts of this state. There isn't a judge I know of who will honor the Constitution of the United States, because as we all know, the First Amendment gives us a liberty right to raise our children. But if you dare to try to raise that issue in court, they will shut you down. Truly, when you walk into a courtroom as a father going through a divorce in this country today and for the last 30 years, you haven't got a chance in hell of being successful. And that is an American tragedy that must end.
And as I voted on the floor of the House just behind me, I also took an oath of office to support the Constitution of the state of Michigan and of the United States. And in that Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 in Michigan's Constitution, it says, all political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal benefit, security, and protection. Now, as those words are rehearsed for me today, and I think of legislators who are even here in this midst today, taking stance on issues and supporting things that do not promote equal benefit, security, and protection, I say it's time to change. It's time that fathers and mothers who are willing to take the stand for their kids and say, regardless of the problems we have, regardless of the situation that's brought about, the divorce or whatever, ultimately it is that child that needs to be first and foremost, not only in our minds, but in the minds of the state and the government that would take on themselves to step in between. To have the opportunity to say the assumption is first there that it is best for the child to have a dad and a mom working together for their interests ought to be an assumption that we take. It ought to be an assumption that a dad has a place in the home. That without a dad, a child loses much of the value that comes from being born in that home. That a mother and a dad, though they may not work together in certain areas, ought to work together to make sure that that child has a future that allows them to be successful, allows them to establish a home in the future that stands for the building block of society, the family, that makes all the difference in the world.
I had the privilege of being married for 30 years, and my wife and I have raised and are still raising 5 children. And it breaks my heart to think that our children would not have the opportunity to be raised by 2 parents. I have a very close friend who has 4 children, who has suffered through many of the things that so many of you have suffered through. A separation, a divorce, and not being one of the custodial parents, not having the opportunity to help raise his children. You know, anytime you do legislation, there's always winners and there's losers. And the system that we have today has winners and losers. The way it's arranged today, the winners are the lawyers and the courts, the friend of the court and the judges. And the losers are the fathers and the mothers of this state. And we need to change that. And with our legislation, the winners will be the moms and the dads of Michigan, so they will each have equal opportunity to be with their children, to raise their children. And the losers, unfortunately, will be the judges and the courts and the friend of the court.
The state of Michigan is in a state of crisis. I'm not talking about our struggling auto industry. I'm not talking about the exodus of citizens to other states. I'm not even talking about Forbes magazine ranking Michigan's business climate as 45th out of the 50 states. The seeds of this crisis were sown more than 35 years ago. First, with the passage of the Child Custody Act of 1970, and then with the enactment of the No-Fault Divorce Law of 1971. These 2 laws created a system in Michigan that delivered a 1-2 punch to Michigan families. The bias in this system is to break apart a family, and this has been the result. There are currently more than 1 million active post-divorce cases in the child support system. 4 million of our fellow citizens are currently living under the tyranny of the friend of the court. 40% of the entire population of Michigan. Many millions more have been put through the divorce gristmill in the last 3.5 decades. The legacy for our children of all these fatherless, broken homes is truancy and a skyrocketing dropout rate, a teen drug abuse epidemic, teen pregnancies, juvenile crime. The friend of the court has become one of our state's biggest industries. It currently transfers more than $1.38 billion per year after taking its percentage off the top. As your next Attorney General, all have a very different agenda. One that will seek to minimize the damage caused by divorce, not exploit it for political gain or taxpayer funding. I will rely on parents, not judges or friend of the court bureaucrats, to decide what's in the best interests of their children.
The reality is that you can have a substantive relationship with your child on an abbreviated basis, but the reality is that quantity of time has a quality all of its own that is missing when you're relegated to a few overnights a month. And alternating weekends is what? 4 overnights a month, which is a really non-existing relationship. It's not a parental relationship. It is relegating a parent to an uncle or a similar type of relationship. People say that people accuse fathers of wanting joint custody to impact their child support obligation. It's kind of interesting. The opposite is never applied. I was in the probate court the other day, and a mother was sitting there with her daughter and son, petitioning the court to allow the daughter to have guardianship over her brother. And the judge asked why they wanted to do this, and apparently the son had some legal difficulties. He got involved in drugs. He had been arrested for breaking and entering. And the mother said that this child obviously has some difficulties. He's in a bad crowd. The daughter had married and moved outside of the city and was willing to take on the responsibility of caring for her brother in hopes of providing a better environment. And that clearly convinced the judge that this was best for the young man, and he was agreeable to it. The judge asked about the father if he had been notified, and they said yes, he had been notified, and he also agreed. The judge said, well, I don't have anything in the file showing he was served. If he comes back, I will modify this, or at least give him a hearing. And she said, I'm prepared to grant your petition. And now, let me see, the child support, is the father currently paying child support? And the mom said, oh yes, he's works for one of the big three at that time. And now, big what, I don't know. But he said his money's withheld from his paycheck, and so we get child support regularly. And so the judge said, well, I will assign your daughter then the child support obligation. And the mom went, wait a minute, forget it, that's not going to happen. And so the judge said, well, wait a minute, now what do you want your daughter to do? She's going to have your son, and certainly she should get the father's child support. And the mother said, it doesn't cost anything like the amount to care for this child as I collect in child support. That's my money. I will pay the child's expenses. And the judge said, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, that's not the way it works. She said, forget it then, he will stay with me. And they walked out of the courtroom.
My long journey through the family court system has brought me here to you to tell you that there's only one way that we're going to stop hundreds of thousands of children from dealing with the same nonsense that I had to deal with. Though the family courts claim to be out for the best interest of the children, I think that we all know differently. In my eyes, the best interest of the children is equal parenting, 50-50 visitation. There is no other way for a child to grow up happy at all. I believe that if we do a 50-50 visitation, the courts will have no choice but to become uninvolved. They won't be able to be involved because we'll be taking care of it ourselves. Children want and need both of their parents. I wish that my parents had split custody equally. Divorce is hard enough without a child having to deal with hearing their mother and father fight over money and who's going to have them, and watching their father get arrested for non-payment of child support. The judges and lawyers seem to look at people as ATMs rather than as people who have real emotions. It's obvious that the best interest of the child is thrown aside as the lawyers' bills grow and grow and grow. For 6 months, I didn't see my dad, and I told my attorney when we went back to court that when we go there, I want you to say, okay, she can see her dad now. And he said, I don't care what you say, your mom's the one paying me. I I'm not helping you. What you want is irrelevant to me. I watched for 2 years as my dad got divorced from his ex-wife, watched as he struggled every single day to stand up, to drive a stick shift to these kind of rallies that we're at right now. Last time I talked to him, he was a walking skeleton and had just been released from jail for a non-payment of child support by Judge Fred Kaiser, who told my dad to shut up and remanded him to jail for a week, 3 weeks before he died. He was a well-known father's rights activist in New Jersey who was beaten down by the system and was, in the end, completely defeated. His family life was destroyed, his financial life was destroyed, his social standing, everything. And he dedicated his every waking moment to fighting the system and making sure that his kids would have a better life, because he found out that he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, a stress-related illness, that he had 2 to 5 years to live. When he got out, he was just a skeleton, basically. He had no body structure to him. All of his muscles were gone. We spent some time together, and I had a conversation with him, basically, that you would have with someone when you know they're going to die. On August 12th, he called me and said he was going to give me his last $200 to fix the car that he had gotten me. He never called back, and he was supposed to show up to Eatontown to see me. The next day, I had a gut feeling that something was really wrong with him. And my grandfather went to go see him and discovered his dead body. He had fallen asleep and stopped breathing. So I found out I was the last person to talk to him. It took me till now, really, to be able to talk about it without crying. And even still, it's kind of hard. But I'm out here now, picking up the torch from where he left off. And I'm not going to let his death go in vain.
Let's look at some statistics. 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. That's from the Center for Disease Control in Washington, D.C. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. The source is the Department of Health and Human Services report out of Washington, D.C. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. And that's from the National Principals Association report. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. And 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 80% of rapists motivated with displaced anger come from fatherless homes. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes. 85% of all youths sitting in prisons grew up in a fatherless home. That's from the Fulton County, Georgia jail population and the Texas Department of Corrections. Bottom line, without both parents' involvement in the children's lives, there's a lot of memories lost. There's a big part of that security network that disappears, evaporates. It's not just the father or the mother. It's the father's father and the father's mother. It's the father's uncle and the father's sister. And it's all that infrastructure we call family. And we are destroying half of the family. It's incredible.
As you know, we have national figures, major figures in American political life. Phyllis Schlafly, Mike McManus have come out in favor of shared parenting and against the ravages of the divorce industry. And many others, I think, are ready to join them as well. You also should know, I should say, from Washington, that you are not alone here, in case you had any doubts. Throughout this country, others are organizing, and if we can organize a demonstration like this here, if you can organize it, then we can do this in every state in America. Yeah. 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 Mitch Sanderson and the North Dakota Shared Parenting Initiative are sending shockwaves throughout the divorce industry in America. Right here in Michigan and elsewhere, Mike Ross and Molly Olson and Larry Holland and others are exposing the ravages of the federal welfare spending and child support enforcement spending and how it subsidizes family breakup. The folks at Radar are directly confronting the Violence Against Women Act and other destructive legislation. So, and of course we at ACFC are doing our part too in Washington. For the last 5 years, Americans have been inundated with warnings about losing our freedom because of terrorism. Others have countered that we are in danger of losing our freedom from the government's measures against terrorism. They both have a point, but I think they're both missing the point as well. The greatest threat to our freedom today comes from within. It is the government's destruction of our families and our children. Islamic radicalism may be creating what Samuel Huntington calls a clash of civilizations, but the government's war against the family strikes at the social basis of all civilization. The divorce regime is not only a threat to social order, but also to civic freedom. What is happening today is much more serious than simply unfairness or gender bias against fathers in divorce cases. It is the government's machine for destroying the main rival and check on its power, which is the family. The most basic human rights and constitutional protections are routinely destroyed and violated in America's family courts. The lives of parents and children are in serious danger, as we learned from Wilbur Street, once they are, as the phrase is, taken into custody. Today in America, American citizens who are legally unimpeachable, who are under no suspicion of wrongdoing, who are sitting in their own homes minding their own business, can be forcibly summoned to legal proceedings and find themselves stripped of their children and subject to criminal proceedings. Americans today are subject to criminal proceedings not for public crimes, but for how they conduct their private lives. Without any action on their part, American citizens are being turned into criminals in ways they are powerless to avoid. Without demonstrating you have committed any legal transgression, government officials can now enter your home, examine your private papers and effects, empty your bank account, throw you out of your home, jail you without trial, and most serious of all, take away your children. The police state methods used by the divorce industry are not a future possibility. They are the present reality. I want to give you a short list of the practices that are routine in what used to consider itself the freest society on earth. Mass incarcerations without trial or charge, forced confessions, children forcibly separated from parents who have done nothing wrong, and parents stripped of their children without explanation. Government agents entering the homes and examining the private papers of innocent parents. Official court records, including hearing tapes and transcripts, are doctored and falsified with the knowledge of court officials, and evidence is fabricated against the innocent. Defendants are denied the constitutional right to face their accusers. Bureaucratic police are authorized to issue arrest warrants and subpoenas against parents with no hearing. Special courts are created specifically to process parents for political offenses. Forced labor facilities are being created specifically for parents. Children are instructed to hate their parents with the backing of government officials. Children are forced to act as informers against their parents with the backing of government officials. Children are abused and killed with the support of government officials. Knowingly false allegations. I could go on and on about it. We heard the story of Wilbur Street. Parents are often jailed without trial, and in one case, at least one case, fatally beaten, the case of Brian Armstrong, and then others are denied medical attention while they are in police custody. Parents are ordered by government officials to separate from their spouses on pain of losing their children. Parents are ordered to pay the private fees of officials they have not hired, whose services they have not sought or used, on pain of incarceration. And I could go on and on.
Myself and my fellow superheroes here represent Fathers for Justice. We are an army of moms, dads, grandparents, and children fighting for family law reform and equality in child custody matters. Our group is representative from Ohio, but we are spread all across the nation, and we're here today in Michigan to support the passage of House Bill 5267.
I think our goal is real simple. It's equality for kids. You know, one day kids have both parents next to them, and somebody files a divorce paper or separation paper with the court, and the next thing you know, the children lose one of their parents. And so it's about equality for kids.
My name is Paul Fisher from Ohio, and I still have 50% visitation with my daughter, but the courts took away custody without citing any good reason. And currently, my case is on its way to the Ohio Supreme Court. If we have a victory in the Supreme Court, the outcome would be that people with shared parenting would be treated like parents. Their rights could not be stripped away by the whims of a judge.
I think one of our biggest struggles is whenever you talk about fathers' rights, the first thing that comes up is, hey, it's a bunch of deadbeat dads that don't want to pay child support. And it's just not about child support. I have equal time with my kids. They're with me every other week. I pay $4,000 in support right now per month. Okay, and
with
quite frankly,
custody.
and the kids live with me every other week. It's not about the money. It's about parents that want to see their kids. And we started this, but in Ohio, we've gone through 5 years of litigation. Divorce was filed in June of 2001. It's still going on, and we can't get a decision from the courts. And it took 4.5 years. There were times when I couldn't see my kids at all. I had supervised visitation based on nothing but false allegations for months at a time. And finally, in November of 05, the mother was caught red-handed on tape coaching the kids to say they were abused. And she was put on supervised visitation for that. And immediately, 45 days later, she was completely forgiven, and we're back to this 50% custody, which I think is great. Every kid should have equal time with their parents as long as both parents are fit. If they're not fit, but the problem that we fight, that we're battling, these folks are going to battle with this initiative on the ballot, is that groups that come out against them are going to say, hey, it's all about trying to get out of paying child support. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with dads want to see their kids. Dads are good parents too, and the best parent is both parents. It's real simple.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we need to criminalize any type of false allegations used in child custody matters. I am Scott's wife, and as a stepmother who has my own 3 children and went through my own divorce where we settled everything amicably and we have a shared parenting agreement without the help of the courts, I come into the situation as a stepmother, for which I am a very good stepmother, and yet his ex-wife has accused me through the children and through Children's Services of physical abuse, and even their older step-siblings of sexual abuse crimes. And so therefore our entire family has been devastated. We have spent over 6 figures of money we don't have. We're totally indebted in charge cards, but we will not give up the fight, and we are here today in Michigan to build our army, and we are going to do this lawfully, but if we cannot get the government to stand up and support the families, then we're going to go all the way.
As one lawyer said to me one day in the halls of the Oakland County Courthouse, you have to understand something. Law is practiced here, not justice.
We have created a huge bureaucratic machine in this country, a bureaucratic machine on the federal, state, and local level, which exists for no other purpose than for taking children away from their parents.
No one should have to feel the pain of losing their fathers.
The first thing any citizen, particularly parents, can do is get involved.
The way it's arranged today, the winners are the lawyers and the courts, the friend of the court and the judges. And the losers are the fathers and the mothers of this state. And we need to change that. And with our legislation, the winners will be the moms and the dads of Michigan, so they will each have equal opportunity to be with their children, to raise their children. And the losers, unfortunately, will be the judges and the courts and the friend of the court.
Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Hi, sweetie. How are you? How are you doing today? You wanna come hang out with Daddy for a little bit? Yeah. Do you wanna maybe go to the pool, or go get some sushi or something? Come hang out with Daddy for a little while? Huh? Pool? Okay. Okay, cool. How's that sound with you, Holly? It's Saturday. I haven't seen Kelly in a while. How's that sound with you? This is all on film. It's all for the court record. You've been served, by the way. Kelly, what time do you want to go to the pool? Okay. I don't understand why a 5-year-old wouldn't want to see their father, now would you? You're gonna lose custody over this if you don't start acting right. You know I'm better than you. I'm just trying to be a good father because I love my daughter more than anything. No comment? What time can I come pick up Kelly? Because this is personal for you. This ain't about her. Hey, sweetie. Hi, I love you. I love you, sweetie. Okay? I'm gonna ask mommy if I can come pick you up and take you to the pool, okay? And it's up to her whether you do or not. So if you don't get to see me, it's because she doesn't want you to. I want to see you. I want to see you every weekend. I want to spend time with you. I love you, Kelly. Hi, I'm here to pick up Kelly, like she wanted to go to the pool earlier. What time do you want her back, Holly? It doesn't have to be this hard. And, hi, you ready to go to the pool, sweetie? Oh. Oh, okay. What, do you want to just go hang out and maybe watch a movie or something? Go to the movie theater? No, are you okay? Oh. Okay, sweetie. Well, I'll try again next Saturday then, okay?
Yeah, she's just kind of like, she hasn't seen me well. She's kind of really nervous, yeah.
Holly, don't keep her from me then.
No, but I'm just saying, like.
Well, you know, like,
Give her
all
time
this is about her, man. Like, I don't wanna argue with you about anything. And you know, I ain't gonna get custody. I don't have a job. That ain't even gonna happen. You know that. I'm not here to take anything from you or argue with you. I just want to see my daughter on a regular basis. I don't want her to end up like having some kind of like issue later on in life, like some depression or whatever, because Daddy wasn't around. Like, you know, like your dad was always working all the time, 24/7, right? So then you were just, you know, you pretty much had to find your own way, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want her to deal with any kind of like, you know, like messed up thing later on in life because she feels that she didn't have a father. You know, it's not right to her.
I know, but I don't want to force her.
Yeah, but I know you're manipulating her, Holly. I know this. Because when I walked, you were like, oh, she doesn't want to see you. And then the minute I walked up to you, she's like, yeah, hey, Dad, yeah, I love you too. Let's go to the pool. So, I mean, like, you know, you can't, like, it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt you. Well, maybe. But it's hurting her more than anything. Let's put our stupid squabbles aside, and let's just think about her from now on. Can we agree to try that?
Yes, I'm gonna make it her choice.
Okay. I'll email you. I'll email you next Friday about Saturday. Okay.
Or maybe next Friday, maybe do something like go to sushi or something really small, so she feels like, you know what I mean? Like.
But I mean, don't make it awkward for her. Like, oh, sweetie, wouldn't you rather hang out with mommy? Blah blah blah. Okay. Well, I'll try again on Friday.
The narcissist has no use for the one he or she cannot control. Narcissists hate free spirits. The individual who is an individual, the man or woman who is able and unafraid to think critically, the person who is in touch with his or her creative side, basically anyone who is halfway capable of thinking and dreaming for themselves, will be despised by the narcissist. Why? It's because the free-spirited person presents an obstacle to the narcissist and his insatiable desire to control anybody and everybody in his or her circle of so-called relationships. A so-called relationship with a narcissist is no relationship at all. There's nothing mutual about it. It is a form of slavery. It is master to servant. It is superior to inferior. It is controller to controllee. It's not much different than the relationship a farmer has with an ox, a rancher has with a horse, or a machinist has with a press. If you provide the narcissist in your life the control they desire, they will be more than happy to maintain a, quote, relationship with you. If you do not give the narc in your life the control they desire, expect to be the target of their rage, or if you're lucky, abandonment. I say if you're lucky because many narcs seek to destroy the ones that they cannot control. I've personally discovered that most narcissists are more than happy to maintain a phony relationship with you if only you will provide them a single pearl or two of your own soul, flesh, or finances that they can trample on. You know, like the swine Jesus warned us about in Matthew chapter 7. Even if you decide to hand little parts of yourself over to the narc in your life, even a pearl at a time, you will still eventually find the core of your soul trampled underfoot by the narc and his or her minions. But hey, in the meantime, you can at least pretend you're enjoying a relationship with them, right? Let me make this point clear to you, and this is something I have to continually and repeatedly make to my own soul. If the narc in your life can't control you, you mean nothing to them. They don't love you, and they do not care for you. When I say you, I mean the real you. I mean the things about your personality, life, and spirit that define the true you, the things that make you who you are and what you are. The narcissist could care less about those things. Their so-called love for you extends to the level with which they can derive a use from you, like the farmer loves his ox, or a rancher loves his or her horse, or someone may love their new car. Most of the time, that use is nothing more than a sensation of empowerment that the narcissist experiences when he or she believes they have exercised power over some aspect of your person, be it your perceptions, your emotions, your thoughts, or your behavior. Sometimes that use is the enhancement of the narcissist's own image for the benefit of those he or she is attempting to impress, much like a prop in a staged production. Sometimes the usefulness they derive from you can range from a simple kissing of their butt to conning you out of your entire life savings. Either way, any relationship you have with a narcissist will always, and I must emphasize always, be built upon their ability to control and exploit some, if not all, aspects of your life. I believe 2 Peter 2:3 words this better than any psychology manual when it states that false messengers, which perfectly describes the narcissist, will attempt to make merchandise of you. If they cannot control you and subsequently exploit you, you mean nothing to them. Now here's a warning. Don't make the mistake of falling for the relationship card when you decide to cut ties with the narc in your life. If and when you muster the strength to sever ties with a narc, expect a full-fledged attack on your morality, character, and integrity. Much of that will be centered on your unwillingness to enjoin yourself to the narc. You will be the one accused of a callous refusal to maintain relations with one so loving and kind as the narc in your life. All of the feigned and fake acts of kindness heaped on you by the narcissist, they'll be thrown back in your face as examples of your selfishness and your pettiness, as well as the narc's mercy and tenderheartedness. Don't think for a moment that the relationship card tactic won't be used on everyone in your circle of family and friends that the narc may have access to. They're going to hear about your bitter, unforgiving heart, while the narcissist all along only wanted a relationship with you. They did want a relationship with you on their playing field alone, a one-way relationship, the narc's way, of course. If you are a free spirit, if you believe that God created you to be an individual personality with unique abilities and purposes in life, if you are someone who possesses the capacity to think for yourself, if you are any of these things, you need to stop wondering why the narcissist in your life targeted you for humiliation, shame, and possibly even destruction. Or if you're fortunate, stop wondering why the narcissist in your life simply discarded you like yesterday's rubbish. Face up to the truth, as painful as it is, that the narc has no use for those he or she cannot control and subsequently exploit.
You are watching Krights TV, where the
Hello
truth
everyone,
continues.
Richard Farr here with you with another episode of Krights 2. I want to talk today about parental alienation. My belief, honestly, is that those parents that engage in parental alienation, that is the systematic reorganizing children's thought patterns to taking all natural love out of a child towards another parent, should be a criminal offense, and it should be punished criminally. There are so many examples. That is one of the greatest, I guess, atrocities of the family court, is allowing parental alienation to continue like they have for 20, 30 years. Parents who engage in alienating their child are a basic form of sociopath. And what needs to happen here is there needs to be a serious campaign mounted against our court system concerning the rights of the non-custodial parent. The situation of where the alienated parent becomes the targeted parent. And basically, as I heard in a video one time, it was like any time there was any thought about the targeted parent, anytime there was any mention, it was basically a slap down to the child. And that is abusive. That is abusive, because what you are making the child, or what the alienating parent is doing, is they are making a child hate one half of themselves. One of the most crucial parts of a child's upbringing are the fact that there are two parents. There's a knowledge of two parents. It takes two to create the one. So it needs to be changed, and it needs to be corrected, and it needs to happen immediately. And one of the reasons why the court system does not enforce against alienators some sort of sanctions and some sort of punishments is because of the fact that the child support system, again, USC 42, here we go, 666, which is the federal statute, that's really the beast. Everybody's got this whole political thing going on. It's the child support agency is a beast. And I will tell you more about that as we go along, but today it's parental alienation. And those parents that are suffering as the targeted parent, it's hard. I mean, it is just so hard. I have a situation to where I know very close to myself of a father that's alienated, and it is just one of the most pathetic situations at all, because the children have ended up in jail. They've ended up with DWIs. They've ended up with all kinds of emotional problems, but they don't think they have any problems. And then if there's ever a problem that's brought up about their own personal situation, the alienating parent places all the blame onto the targeted parent. Now, let's go back to child support and why this all happens this way. There is an effort by the Child Support Enforcement Agency to keep children separated from parents, from a targeted parent, from the parent that is not collecting child support. Therefore, they can turn around and begin to target that parent themselves. The child support system target that parent and begin to put gross punitive measures against that parent to increase the situation of alienation, therefore degrading the parent that is the rejected parent. Now, we're going to be going into this much deeper as time goes on. I put up a video that was done not too long ago. It's called Waiting. You should watch that video, check it out. Very, very interesting. You hear about parental alienation from the child side. You hear about parental alienation from a professional, from a judge. It's a very, very good video, and you should check that out. Now, you know, no longer is there any one kind of family. And it's not like the old greeting card situation. There's the set of child support laws and the child support system, and it covers 17 million children, which is about a quarter of them. And it's not working. I talk again about undistributed collected funds. There's money that the child support enforcement agencies are stealing from our children, and they're putting it into accounts called non-collected undistributable funds. And what they're doing with that is they have all written laws, all the states have written laws to where in as little as 1 year, any money that is in an undistributed amount can be taken by the state and used and given back to the child support agency to continue their atrocities. Family court is a ruse. Family court is only about the attorneys. It's only about the judges feeling like they are gods and playing agendas. And the agenda is the feminist movement, which the grand experiment of running father out of the home has failed. It has failed miserably. And it's all because of this feminist movement that is surrounded about keeping father out, that the only gloryhood in America is motherhood. But many of our children grow up now without a father and end up with situations to where they have no respect for authority. They have no respect for the rule of law. And many of those children find themselves in deep legal troubles, as well as many of those children end up coming back home to mom. And the very thing that mom wanted to do was to grow them up and get them out of the house so she could go off and do whatever she wanted to, has completely backfired on mom. And, you know, I've even had women tell me that we gave our child a pass. We didn't correct our child. We didn't do the right thing by growing our child up to understand responsibility, to understand the value of money, to understand their own personal value and their relationship with both the parents. This mistake, this grand experiment has failed. And now's the time to make some changes. You know, I, back a number of years ago, was did a lot of speaking, did a lot of protesting. And I really believe that's where we need to get again. And many of the people inside the city halls and inside the courtrooms, they talk about how they laugh when people are outside protesting on these issues. Where we need to protest is we need to get a concerted effort to the media. And the infighting needs to stop among the groups. You have to understand, back 9 years ago, there were a number of very, very influential groups that had a chance to change all of this, but it was busted. The chance was busted, and you are where you are right now with no advances, no movements, no real changes in the family court system because of the infighting that was going on. And it was many groups trying to make all of themselves the hero, when it's kind of like the situation of where I worked and when I worked for Disney. It's like if you look there, you never know the names of the people that work on the movies, that work in the rides, that work behind the scenes in Imagineering or in Disney Images or at Disney Ideas. You just don't know the people that do all the special stuff behind the scenes, because there's one name that matters, and that name is Walt Disney. So that's what we've got to get. But the problem is who is going to take that mantle? Now, I don't believe it should be any one person. I believe it should be the topic itself. And all of the groups that are for that topic stand together, stand united, share information, share discussions with each other, sharing. That is what we need to do. We need to start comparing notes. We need to start sharing. And I know that there is so much pain out there that sometimes it's almost unimaginable of how you can even make it into the next day. I will share something with you here. Is I was alienated against myself for 15 years. My ex took my children off into a cult church, and I didn't get to see them for many, many years. Many custody violations, many visitations were violated. And for 15 years, I went to where, didn't get a phone call for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, not even a "et you." So I understand. I understand greater than you know. And what you need to remember is in these times that the alienation is at its apex, the parent that is being alienated, you need to stay strong. You need to hang into the game, and you need to be there, because the children one day will come searching for the alienated parent, the targeted parent. And it will take a number of years before you, as the targeted parent, will be able to push away the rushes of memories of all that you lost during all of those years. But it will be a matter of rebuilding new memories and adding to the memories. And slowly the memories of all those lost years will disappear and the new memories will come in. So this is what I have to say about parental alienation, is that it should be a punishable offense. There should be guidelines, there should be measurable events, and the court should be willing to hear this immediately. And the only reason that this is not happening is because of the child support enforcement system. It's better to keep the parents at conflict and make one parent believe that the other parent is not doing the right thing, when actually the child support agency is stealing the money. They're just flat stealing the money. And they're all about the collection of the child support that they have on their records, because that's their paychecks from the states, from the federal government. Child support is not about helping our children. It's about the people inside the Child Support Enforcement Agency helping themselves. And the privatized people inside the Child Support Agency, there's one agency right now that's out there. I'm not going to put them by name, but I will. The time will come. And you look at their website, and it's all, you see their president getting onto a Learjet, and you see their president doing this, and you see their president of their company doing other, extravagant things. But when it really comes down to it, this very child support agency has been caught for taking files when they did not have jurisdiction. And when I say taking files, is what they would do is ram through the court system, whether they had jurisdiction or not, child support orders on a non-custodial parent, to where there might be another child support order in another state, but they're just refusing to gain jurisdiction on it. And I think you're going to hear more about this. I think there's a couple of major lawsuits that are getting ready to come down towards a couple of child support agencies. So, but we'll keep you up on that. And I would like to invite you to call, to email. We have a new email address now. It will be the one that we will work from. It's krightsfarfarr.com. Send me any information you want. Let's get together. Let's talk on the air together, and let's get this information out. It's going to be very, very important. We can push this thing over the edge. We can make it work. We can get changes. I guess now's the time for me to say subscribe if you like what we're talking about, where we're going to go. All you have to do is call me, and we'll make arrangements to do a show together, and let's get the word out. Let's get the word out. This is about you, the non-custodial parent. Until next time, the truth continues.
One morning show on all of cable news.
You read about deadbeat parents in the papers and see it on TV all the time. But now someone wants to take a further step. Dick Clark Productions is entertaining an idea, producing a reality show which goes after these parents. The show would track the investigation, arrest, and court process for the deadbeat mom or dad. But critics say it's unfair. And the reason why lots of these parents don't pay up isn't because they're deadbeat dads or deadbeat moms at all. They're just dead broke. Richard Farr is the founder of Kids Rights Radio and the station's on-air commentator. And Richard, thank you for being with us.
Hello, thank you very much.
You know, I describe this as America's most wanted kind of for deadbeat dads and moms. Is that accurate?
That's the way that they wanted to portray the program, and from all of our understandings from the initial discussions with the production company, that's the way that they would like to take it.
What's it going to be called, Deadbeat?
There hasn't been an absolute name yet, and right now they're at the process of working on a sales tape for the program, so this is stopping something that could bring upon damaging stereotypes and humiliating people way before it ever gets into actual production.
Oh, really? You think that it could be stereotypical? Because I guess you're saying that non-custodial parents, they're not all deadbeats. Some of them just don't have money.
Well, that's correct, and then also there's tremendous errors within the child support enforcement system, as well as that there's a lot of money that is in the child support enforcement system, and that's not getting to the children at all.
Okay, we have a question in the audience for you, Richard.
Sure.
Actually, two questions. First of all, if they're not making payments to support their own kids, they're not really dads or moms. Okay. Secondly, if they don't have any money, there are many other things they can do to help their kids out.
Well, have you found that out, Richard? If they don't have the money, how do they help?
There's a lot of parents that work very hard just to be able to be involved in a child's life. The court seems to have an opinion and an attitude to route parents out of the lives of children once you become a non-custodial parent.
Yeah.
So that's really a big problem, that once you can take and enforce issues such as parenting time, you will soon find that the whole child support issue dissolves away very quickly.
So we got two issues going here. One is that whole issue of so-called deadbeat parents, and maybe that's not what they are. And the other was this TV show. Who pitched this idea? I understand it's a police, was it a police officer?
That's right. There was a police officer in Council Bluffs, Iowa, who pitched the original idea, and come to find out that there may be some problems there with him as well. And they weren't exactly honest going into this program, even when we spoke to the executive producer at Dick Clark Productions. And that's another issue that concerns us very much, is that if the executive producer is going to tell us, and please let me say also that, you know, with Dick Clark not being there and him currently being ill, I think that there may be a situation that he just doesn't know, because he is a long-time icon of wholesome America values. And I just think that if Mr. Clark actually knew what was going on with this program, I don't think it would have even have gotten this far.
Would anybody want to watch this?
You know, I'm sure that there's a part of American society that would enjoy seeing, you know, a human being displayed and humiliated. But I think for the most part that this cuts to the very central core of America's and American families.
But I can just hear people saying, Richard, oh, it's just TV.
Yeah, well, you know, TV has a great influence in American lives. It's where we get our news, and it's where we learn what exactly is going on within our society.
Yeah. What's Dick Clark Productions? What's the latest that you've heard from them?
The last that we heard from him, I had discussions with Michael Richards, who is the executive producer. First, he told me that that they had no plans any longer to do the show.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and they told us that they were going forward with the program as well.
Okay, well, let us know what goes on there. And do you want a campaign? You want people to call? Oh, I don't want to call for that. What have you been doing, calling Dick Clark Productions and trying to get them to stop?
Yes, I've worked very close trying to have discussions with Michael Richards of Dick Clark Productions, and have spoken with other people within the organization.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, Richard, keep us informed on that story, okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You know what, you can call us, tell us what you think about that particular story there, or any topic we have on Dayside. You simply go to our website, foxnews.com, and you go to the slash and it says Dayside. It's very easy. Up next, these two teens thought they were doing a good deed, so why did a neighbor sue them for leaving cookies on her porch?